Welcome to the future of work. On this live stream, we talk about how future thinking organizations really take advantage of Giant and what we have to offer to take their organizations to the next level, to do things that their competitors are not doing, to have breakthroughs internally, to unlock their people, to really get the most out of their best resource, which is their human resource. As always, I'm Bronson Taylor, the CEO of Giant, and with me is Mike Oppedahl, our president. Mike, how's it going today, man?
I'm good, Bronson, but I'm feisty today, so you have to be careful about the things you ask me, and just don't go certain places, or you might experience the other side of me today. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I've already experienced it. I mean, Mike is in a feisty mood. He's been getting everybody riled up today. He's feeling good about life. Why are you feeling good about life? What's happening? What are you excited about?
Bronson, we started on this journey to change the world, which sounds crazy. Steve Jobs says only those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world actually will. So we started on this journey a long time ago. It's been since about 2013 that I've been doing stuff with Giant, and I just think we've kind of hit a pinnacle of just a lot of hard work, sweat, tears, just grinding it out, rise and grind, I think we've been saying. And, I just feel like the momentum and just the participation, people are starting to understand what it means to become invincible. People are starting to see the value in investing in developing their people and fighting for the highest possible good of their employees. And so I just think there's when you're pushing a car uphill forever, and then all of a sudden you get to the top and it starts to roll downhill. That's just the sense that I'm feeling coming off of Labor Day, getting into the fall. Football's back on tonight. So, I don't know how many Kansas City Chiefs fans we have in the house, reigning Super Bowl champs. But whatever it is, I just feel a sense of excitement and momentum for finishing 2020 strong, which will be interesting given the events this year. And then getting into a new year, I think 2021 holds a lot of opportunity for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't watch NFL, I'm gonna be honest, but I do watch the NBA. I'm a huge Miami Heat fan,
Yep.
and we just got the Bucks in 5 games. They were the number one seed in the East, and we just knocked them out. Pretty exciting. That just happened a couple nights ago. So yeah, you could say I'm in a feisty mood too. Yeah, so actually, I'm excited about what we're talking about today because we're gonna give people a sneak peek on something that's coming really soon, like in the next week. So right now, we're going to show you something you're probably familiar with, which is the Invincible Team Assessment Spider Graph. So we're going to throw that up on the screen and let you look at that. If you're an Invincible user, you're in the product called Invincible, which is for teams to improve their performance, then you've probably seen this spider graph. On the top left, it shows you how your organization and how your individual teams are doing on the 5 key areas that we think are really important. It shows you a score for communication, for relationships, for alignment, for execution, and for capacity. And then it shows you that overall score in the middle. So what we're going to do today, Mike and I, we're going to talk through what if you have a team that has a low communication score, right? Let's say the other scores are okay, or for whatever reason, you just want to focus on communication. You're actually looking at the Giant scores right now. As you can see, communication is one of our strong suits. So if I were the one deciding what to focus on, it probably wouldn't be communication for our team right now. But a lot of teams struggle with communication. We're probably the outlier there because it is one of our strong suits. So I want you to imagine for a minute that you have taken this assessment and your team is just not doing great in communication. You're in the 70s, you're in the 60s, whatever it might be. We have something called team experiences that we're rolling out in the next week, where you can actually take your team through an experience that's based on one of these 5 things. So you could say, you know what, communication's low. Let's go through a communication experience as a team to improve that score. Why is it so important, Mike, to have these experiences that you can use for any of these areas that might be low?
What we find is that most people's focus for when they come to work is either to make the widgets, provide the services, make the donuts, whatever it is. Their main focus is in providing a fantastic and amazing customer experience based on the products, services, and industries they're in. They don't spend all their time becoming experts in soft skills, behavioral skills, self-awareness, how to influence and motivate people. And so the exercises and experiences are really important because you're assessing these things and you're seeing that, and we told you before, the average team assesses 58% out of 100 when they take the Invincible Team Assessment. So it almost feels like you're failing, which isn't true, by the way. If you think about it, if that's average, that means that it's actually about a C, that's not an F. But people, there's so much lost opportunity and so much unrealized potential when people take the assessment. Well, now what? Like, it's not good enough. If I'm a doctor and I tell you, hey, Bronson, you've got cancer, and then you go, okay, well, now what do I do? It's, oh, I'm not really sure. Sorry, go figure it out. So instead, it's like, let's give you guys exercises and workshops from years of experience trying this all over the world that'll actually work to improve these scores.
Absolutely. And I know how I would feel if I took this and communication was low on my team and I didn't have a playbook, I didn't have a plan of action that was given to me. I'd be like, well, I need to improve communication. I don't really know how to do that. Like, do I have them all read a book? Do we go to a seminar? They're not really doing seminars. Everything's shut down. Like, do I bring in an Like, I don't know what to do to improve that score. So I'm stuck with the problem without a solution. But the solution we're getting ready to show you, it's so simple that you could do it alone with your team. If you're a team leader, you could take them through this. You could also, if you have a guide or consultant that you're currently working with, they can come in and do this experience with you and really help you improve that score. So right now, we're going to bring up on the screen one of the experiences that's going to go live on our platform in the next week or so. And it's going to be a way for you to improve communication. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to walk you through what you would do as a team leader, let's say, or what you would do as a guide or consultant helping a team actually go through a series of questions and a series of concepts that are really going to help you improve communication. So it's literally just a PDF. It's that simple, right? And if you follow the flow, you're going to improve communication. So we're actually going to start at the top and work through this with you. And so we're doing two things here. One, we're actually helping you assess where you're at on some things here as we share about ourselves. But two, we're kind of modeling for you how to do it with your team. That's what I actually want to happen. I want you to watch this, and let's say you're a team leader or you're someone on the team with influence, because we know leadership is actually just influence, right? So you're someone with influence, and you will go back and say, you know what? Our communication can be better. And there's an experience that's going live on Invincible in a few days. I'm going to take our team through this experience. And I can do what I saw Mike and Bronson do. I can do that with my team. I can help us with this. And you're going to have this PDF open, and you're going to be on Zoom, or you're going to be sitting around the office, and you're going to do this. You're actually going to do for them what we're going to model for you right now. Is that fair enough, Mike, with what we're trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, two things. Number one is showing you how easy it is to do if you follow the script, right? The framework, I should say. And second, we want to actually share our own real life experiences. One thing you know about Giant is we're very transparent, and we actually enjoy boasting in our failures and our weakness. So Bronson and I actually want to share with you guys and be real authentic and raw with you about where we land as it comes to support and challenge.
Yeah, that's great. So this is the support challenge for communication, right? So it starts with this question. So you would ask this question to the people on your team, and they would just kind of answer to themselves right now. They don't have to share yet. They're just thinking through it. So the question is, do you feel like you are more likely to challenge the people around you? For example, communication, expectations, and drive others towards specific goals, or support those around you, encourage, train, and resource them? So there's kind of two buckets. Are you more likely to challenge people? You're driving them towards something. You're really trying to get the best out of them. You're giving them goals, or support them. You're encouraging, you're resourcing. There's not a right or wrong necessarily at this point. We just want you to think, are you more likely to challenge or support? So Mike, if you were asked that question in a team setting, Mike, are you more likely to challenge or support people? Where would you land?
I'm going to go to the end of the story, Bronson, which is a deep aha for me, which is I naturally tend towards challenge. I love to receive challenge, and I love to think challenge, and I love to give challenge to those closest around me. In a team setting, I actually lean or tend towards support. So I'm not going to unpack, all the psychology behind that and what's going on in my life through nature, nurture, and choice. But I'll tell you, it's fascinating that I love challenge. When I wake up in the morning, I'm eating, sleeping, and breathing challenge. However, in a team environment, I overcompensate and I try to support those around me.
Yeah, that's great. And you touched on something. There's different answers depending on the context. Yeah. And there's different answers depending on what moment in time we're looking at. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think about challenge and support. Challenge is just so natural to me. I wake up, I challenge myself. I mean, that's where it actually begins, is I look in the mirror and I say, how can I be better? What is my goal? How do I drive myself toward it? So then I naturally, that overflows to all the people around me. And I think, well, I do it to myself. Of course, it's okay to do it to them all the time. That may not be true, but that's where my brain, that's how it goes. So I challenge myself. That's where it starts every morning. I challenge those around me. And support can be accidental. It's almost like I support them if it helps me get the challenge I wanted out of them. It's like I'll support them as long as it's in the context of challenge. It's not really just for support. You know what I mean? So for me, I tend toward challenge. Really, in a lot of areas, and we can get into some areas where maybe I don't later. So yeah, so just think about that. First, if you're watching this, where do you land? Are you more likely to challenge? You're more likely to support. You probably fall into one of those two buckets by default. A lot of people, they fall into the support bucket. They really don't feel comfortable challenging people. They don't like confrontation. They're not trying to drive towards some goal. They really want to have relational harmony. They want to support those around them. They want to love those around them. I would say more people probably fall into that bucket. And a lot of people fall into the other one. So think about yourself. Now, second, think about your teammates, how helpful it would be just to have this question there around the table for us to be able to say, hey, where do you guys fall in terms of support and challenge, So that's really the intro to the experience, is just thinking about those two words. Then we get into really learning the tool. And this is where you can go deeper, really learning what the support challenge matrix is. So Mike, you are our resident expert on this tool. The joke around Giant is that Mike could make a living off of teaching this tool alone, that if Giant had never done anything else, if there were no other tools, no other products, no other workshops, like there's nothing else, he could make a living and supply for his family just teaching this one tool, because I think it's been so impactful for him personally. And when he teaches it, it is impactful. So Mike, teach us the support challenge matrix.
Yeah, I will, Bronson. And I'll spare people the entire story because I know we're going to get into that with the next questions, which is why it's so powerful the way this is teed up. First, we start with, are you better at support or challenge? What's more natural to you? And you start to think about your teammates. What do they do? So when you guys solve problems together, who's bringing support? Who's bringing challenge? Another key insight is this. You may like to bring challenge to others, but you may actually like to receive support. So you have to think through to yourself of going, what do I need? When people calibrate support and challenge for me, what actually is most effective in leading me at the highest levels? So that's important. But here's the support challenge matrix. And here's what it basically says. We've got high support and low support. We've got high challenge and low challenge. The art of leadership is the calibration of high support and high challenge into the lives of those you lead and influence. Whenever you've figured out how to calibrate high support and high challenge, people experience you as a liberator. So it's green for a reason, because healthy things grow. You create a culture of empowerment and opportunity. Everywhere we go around the world, when leaders fight for the highest possible good of others and they calibrate high support and high challenge, people experience liberation from them. Now, it's not perfect. It's not digital, but like generally the environment is healthy and things are growing because there's lots of healthy high support and lots of high challenge. Sadly, to Bronson's point, only half of us in the world are naturally good at high challenge and the other half are good at high support. So the issue is that based on that, you talked about your tendency in the chat, based on your tendency, you're going to fall into one of these different quadrants. If you're naturally good at high challenge and you're not careful, you can fall down into the bottom white quadrant. Under there, you see the word dominate. It's red for a reason because it's fear and manipulation and there's blood in the water. So the issue is if you bring high challenge without high support, it's, hey, Bronson, you like your job, right? Yeah, you want a job? So, hey, tomorrow by 5 o'clock, my time, Eastern, we're going to have that done, right? The project's going to be on my desk. Is that correct? Right? It's a lot of expectation. It's a lot of high challenge. It's a lot of fear and manipulation. So what happens is Bronson does compliance. He's not engaged. He's not alive. He's not coming to work bringing his best. He's actually just complying because he's afraid and he's being manipulated to do what I want him to do. Equally as bad, but not as obvious, is high support, low challenge. Okay? That quadrant, you see the yellow word, it says protect. So what happens is in a all support, no challenge environment, you get a culture of entitlement and mistrust. So, hey, Bronson, I'd love for you to have that stuff on my desk on Friday at 5 because it's kind of important. Can you have that done? And he gets this kind of hinting, passive aggressive, really, this deadline on Friday is really important, but I'm only half sharing expectations because I'm not bringing the effective and appropriate challenge to make sure he knows how important this is, right? So I'm shying away. I'm almost protecting myself from having a hard conversation, and I'm protecting him from the deadline, right? And then finally, we have low support and low challenge. And now you might think, no one is naturally good at low support and low challenge, but this is a choice. So over time, when we get burnout, right, when we've been at something for a long time, when we've been struggling a lot, sometimes we move into that bottom left quadrant, which says it's abdication. It's a culture of apathy and low expectation. It says, Whatever, Bronson. Friday at 5 is fine. I don't care. Monday, I mean, whatever. If I don't really care. I mean, I'm checked out, right? I've got tenure. I've got this seniority syndrome. I'm thinking about retirement, and so I'm burnt out. I'm tired. I just don't have anything in me. I just bring whatever, right? So the idea is we have to learn to calibrate high support and high challenge. When we do that, there's empowerment, there's opportunity. People are engaged. They love coming to work. We unlock their potential, and we actually get the best out of every single person on the team.
Yeah, that's awesome, Mike. What I want people to do right now is to actually try to think of someone in your life that fits into these different quadrants. Start with abdication. Have you had a boss that just didn't care? They didn't challenge you. They didn't support you. They didn't care what you did. It was just kind of like, come in, check the clock, zone out, whatever. Think of somebody. You probably didn't love coming to work, right? It might have been easy in some ways, but you weren't pushed. You weren't supported. It wasn't an environment that you felt like you were going to grow in. Think about someone that's protected you. Maybe a boss you've had where they supported you, but they didn't get the best out of you. You always knew you were kind of running at 70% and everybody was okay with it. And you knew you were kind of phoning it in and everybody was okay with it. You probably liked parts of it, but it wasn't really fulfilling you as a human at the deepest levels. Think of someone that dominated you. Think of someone that they brought a lot of challenge. And they might have got a lot of productivity out of you, but at what cost? You didn't feel the relationship with them. You didn't feel like they had your best in mind. You didn't feel supported. You're probably going to burn out eventually. It's not feasible long term. And you probably had someone in your life that was a dominator towards you. And then if you've been lucky enough, think of someone who liberated you. I don't know if everyone's been lucky enough, to be totally honest. Yep. I don't know if everyone has been in a situation where there's been a liberating leader in their life that said, you know what, I believe in you, which means I'm going to support you and I'm going to challenge you. And I'm going to do them both. I'm not going to choose one or the other. They're both going to happen on a regular basis because that's how I'm going to get the best out of you and it's how you're going to get the best out of yourself. And I'm here for you, but I'm going to push you to places that you don't think you're capable of going, but you are. You just don't know it. And with enough support, you can actually reach goals that you think are impossible. That kind of leader is unbelievable. And I want you to think for a second, now that you've kind of thought through some of the people in your past, some of the people in your life, what would it mean for your legacy if you lived in the top right quadrant? What would it mean for you as a leader, as someone of influence, if those around you said, that person liberates me. They bring a lot of challenge, but it's not challenge in a vacuum. It's challenge with a lot of support. It's them telling me what they want and driving me toward really hard goals and giving me the support necessary to actually make it possible and not get burnt out along the way. Mike, I mean, as you think about your legacy, is it true to say that's what you want? You want to be a liberating leader?
Yeah, it is, Bronson. Even before I came to Giant in 2013, if you cut me in half, you'd see I bleed green, right? The reality was I wanted to be that liberator. I think the issue is that sometimes, and this is what we're talking about here, we don't have the tools or the know-how. So I've always desired to be a liberator, but I think before, by accident, right, accidental versus intentional, I found myself falling into the other quadrants. And I know we'll get into that here in a minute, but I think you're right. It's like I want to be a liberator for everyone around me. And I think a part of that is, it's legacy. It's also, obviously the way people want to remember you, but it's also, it's the most powerful form of leadership. It really, truly unlocks other people. It's an others first mentality. It truly gets the people around you to perform. And again, not selfishly, but when everyone around you is thriving and performing, you just enjoy coming to work. You enjoy your life. You have more peace. I mean, there's just a lot of side benefits to going for being a liberator for other people.
Absolutely. So now, again, I want you to imagine you're with your team. You've scored low on communication. You've said, you know what, guys, let's get into the conference room, whether it's digital on Zoom, whether it's in real life, if that even happens anymore, who knows? You get with your team and you say, we're going to do this exercise to improve our communication. You start by asking people, do you feel like you're more likely to challenge or support those around you? And they think about their answer and they talk about it a little bit. Then you teach them this tool. You say, look, guys, there's 4 quadrants. Here's how it works. Sometimes we're here, sometimes we're there. The goal is to be high support, high challenge. We want to liberate each other. And everybody's like, yeah, that's what we want. That's what we want to be. And that's what we want from those around us, is for us all to be in that liberate quadrant. Then you do this exercise. You say, okay, after learning this tool, plot yourself on the matrix based on where you think people view you in terms of support and challenge. Not where you want to be, not where you think you are. Where do you think people view you? So let's do that, Mike. Let's you and I plot ourselves on where people view us. I had you go first last time, so I'll go first this time. Okay. I would say, if I'm being really honest, I would say a lot of people think I liberate, right? Currently, but I tend toward probably at work dominate if I'm gonna, float somewhere. I don't advocate. I'm too engaged.
Yep.
I'm in it to win it. I wake up every day with a fire in my belly to like go do something. So abdication is really not in my nature, to be honest. Protection at work isn't in my nature. I'm just too direct. Like I need goals to be hit. I really want hills to be taken. So I think I'm liberate because I've learned to use my left hand. I've learned to work on my, tendencies that aren't as positive. But I can get toward dominate, and especially under stress. That's probably where I would tend toward. Would you agree with that, Mike? You know me pretty well. Do you think it's true what I just said?
No question. I mean, I have. It's been rare, if ever, have I seen you really be a protector, or have those protecting, high support, low challenge qualities. But I would say generally a liberator, honestly. And if not, when push comes to shove, and when the tension gets high, we always say skills break down under pressure. So I would say under pressure, your tendency would be towards high challenge and lower support, right? That'd be true. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about you? Let's talk about you for a second. Where would you plot yourself? And maybe how even have you changed over time? Because this is not like this is who I am and it's a label. That's not a label. You're not getting stuck with a word that is you. That's why we actually don't call it dominator. You're not a dominator. You might dominate sometimes, but that's a tendency that you can work through and you can actually liberate. So where are you now, and where have you kind of grown and changed over time, Mike?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I appreciate putting Christine's quote back up there, because I actually was reading this in the chat. She said, it really depends on my role. The more influence I have, the more challenge I bring, but otherwise support. So I actually want to address what Christine said and actually share my own story. So my observation would be that Christine would tend to actually be naturally good at high support, and she's learned to feel comfortable to bring challenge when the environment is conducive to that. So that's what happens a lot of time, guys. We have this natural tendency, but then we compensate or we overcompensate based on different experiences in our lives. So like Bronson, I am naturally good at high challenge. It's what I want. It's what I like to receive. It's actually what I like to give to those I love the most. But for some reason, because of basically the way I was brought up, the experiences of my life at work, I don't want to be seen as somebody who's dominating. You're right. Bronson talked about the verb, not the label, right? I don't want to be seen as somebody who's dominating. So I overcompensate and I bring a lot of raw high support and want to make sure people know that I like them and that I'm for them. And so sometimes I miss the opportunity to liberate. So I would say, Bronson, my natural tendency is dominate. But if you experience me at work, and my home is a different thing. We'll talk about that. At work, you would experience me as a protector. I'm typically a liberator, and people would say I've always brought a lot of high support. But I say that sometimes under pressure, I actually would move towards protection for a really interesting observation. I don't want people to feel like I'm disappointed in them or that they've let me down, which is really unfair because they might not even care they've done that. But I don't like to let people down. And so therefore, I don't like to make other people feel like they've let me down. So when push comes to shove under pressure, I tend to protect the people around me, and I go really high challenge in my head, and I bring that challenge back on myself. And like you, Bronson, abdication really isn't in my vocabulary. I think that the truth is when I've lost an attractive side of a vision, I'll tend to abdicate certain areas, but I'm generally really engaged. I've got a lot of energy, a lot of passion. But again, I have to be careful not to be experienced as that protecting behavior, that protecting tendency when I don't want others to fail around me.
Yeah, you've hit on something so important, which is in different areas of our life or different groups or different times of the day or different situations, we're in different quadrants. This isn't, I liberate and I liberate in every area. Probably not, right? No matter who we are, we probably don't have high support and high challenge in every area of our life. So I think about me at home where I don't protect at work at all. Like I don't tend toward it. It's not my nature. It's not my nurture. When I get home, I'm more likely to protect than probably with my wife, more likely to protect. And with my kids, probably more likely to dominate. As crazy as that is, it's like, and you've actually seen that. And we've talked about it, Mike. With my kids, I just don't take any crap. And it's just like, I cut to the chase and it's not this warm, welcoming, thing. And then with my wife, I'm more likely to protect. And then at work, I think I actually probably do better at liberation than I do at home, as weird as that is. Isn't it crazy how we really have to have this big view of life for this to really make the most sense and to get the most out of it?
Yeah, no question. And that actually goes to, now you want to discuss with your team. So you've done the exercise, right? You said, hey, where are we going to plot ourselves? And everyone's got a chance to play and plot themselves. And then you get into these discussion questions. And this is where it really comes alive. So everyone's engaged with the tool. They've seen support. They've seen challenge. They've thought about it for themselves. They thought about dynamics like Christine. Hey, I've noticed this about myself. By the way, Christine, how powerful for you to share with your team. Hey, I actually am really good at high support. I love to bring challenge, but only when I feel like it's a safe place or I'm comfortable because of influence. All of a sudden, you've given your team a playbook to understand how you operate at your best. And so those are some powerful insights. So you do the exercise and apply yourself, and now you get into discussion with your team. So the first one was each person share where you applied yourself on the matrix and why. So Bronson and I have just done that. And then we started to get in dynamics. We said, it says, each person share what you need to do, to move into the liberation quadrant. And what happens there is it starts to come alive, like Bronson said, in your entire life. So you might find, hey, with this team, I tend to feel like a liberator, but when I go outside this team, I tend to be a protector, right? Or, hey, with this team, I tend to kind of bring a lot of challenge, but when I go out and talk to the rest of the organization, I tend to bring a lot of support, and I want to, be protected. So the reality is that no matter what circumstance you're in, you might have a different approach and people might experience you differently. So Bronson, you just talked about the home life, right? So you're saying, hey, at home, I might actually protect my wife and dominate my kids, right? My experience is I'm protecting at work and liberating a lot. And like you said, it's a lot easier to liberate at work. But when I come home, my wife, I'm a liberator too, but my kids, I tend to dominate. So to your point, it's like, where do you fall when you're at work, in different team environments, in the wider organization, and then also when you get home?
Absolutely. And one of the things that we really thought through carefully about these discussion questions is we're letting the individuals own it themselves. We're not telling them what we think about them. So it says each person share where you plotted yourself on the matrix and why. So when someone says, guys, I dominate, they're saying it, you're not telling them. When someone says, I protect or I abdicate, you're not saying, oh, you're a protector. They're saying, I protect and I want to grow and I want to work through that. The second question, each person share what you need to do to move into Liberate Quadrant. So you're going around the circle on Zoom or in person, and they're saying, here's what I need to do to become more of a liberator. In this setting, I need to do this. In that setting, I need to do that. But now they're saying it, and there's so much psychology there that when you say it yourself, you're actually so much more likely to follow through, for it to be real to you. Somebody didn't tell you what you need to change. You told others what you need to change about yourself. And that's so much more powerful. And so I just want you to imagine for a second, if you're a team leader, just what an incredible experience this would be. I mean, you know more about Mike and I than you probably ever thought you would know. Right now, you've actually got a window into our soul, and we're strangers to you. You don't know us. We're not going to call you later. You're not going to come over our house and hang out, right? Imagine if you had this level of insight about the people you work with every single day. And you're like, I do dominate, I do protect, and this is how we can move forward. And then that last question, each person share what you learned from this exercise. And so that's just a great way to wrap it up and let people kind of open it and share like, hey, here's what I learned. Here's what I got from this. Here's where I'm going to go from there, And so now we started with this idea, communication is low, right? Well, first, you just did something that opened up communication. People had to share. They were raw. They were honest. I mean, Mike, do you think just the experience of going through any exercise like this is probably going to help communication?
I do. And I think that's a deep insight that we got when we put together the Invincible Team Assessment, and we got the results. And we took a lot of time to make that a really robust assessment to really assess performance and resilience, so you really could become an invincible team that no one could take out. It would perform at the highest level. And then we got the results and the insights, and we realized if your team commits that you guys actually want to go for higher performance and higher resilience as a team, you want to be an invincible team that can do anything you put your minds to, then actually whatever actions or steps you take in that direction are going to help. That's the first step. Then if you have some relevant tools, some simple visuals that you can remember when you leave the meeting, and some good, healthy conversation, like by almost by definition, you're going to see those scores go up. So now we've just given you this matrix and this tool, which you're going to remember. It's 4 quadrants. Sometimes people go, what was that top right? What was liberate is empowerment and opportunity. Oh yeah. So you'll have the conversation, but after a few meetings, you're going to be using this language. You're going to go, hey, you know what, Bronson, I really need some more support right now. I know, tension's high, the pressure's up, but I really need you to bring me more support right now in what I'm doing in my role. All of a sudden, we give you a common objective language. Most leadership, most influence is highly subjective. It's, hey, you know what, Bronson, I just need you to step it up, dude. Come on, I need more out of you. And you're like, I don't know what to do with that. But if I say, hey, Bronson, I've noticed you bring a lot of challenge to the team under pressure. Try bringing more support. You might, oh, yeah, they want me to be a liberator. That's right. Yeah, we're feeling a little bit of fear right now. No, let's move back into that empowerment. Oh, yeah, that common language can really unlock the potential of the team in a huge way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Joanne says, I tend to go toward high support and have to be super intentional when I bring high challenge. Yeah, if somebody is naturally about high support, it's there's a lot of friction with challenge. It's like, is this going to hurt the relationship? Are they still going to like me? Am I supporting while I bring challenge? And I think that's important for people to realize is it doesn't take away from your support to bring challenge. You've added something new. You haven't taken away something that was there. And that's why I think sometimes we tend toward protect and dominate because we feel like, well, if I protect, or if I bring, too much support, then they won't hit the goal. That's not true. Like it's actually the reverse. You can actually support them so that they can hit the goal. Or, if I, the vice versa is also true. So that's awesome. And think about this too. This is a filter for our own communication. So before you write that Slack message, you can think, okay, is this liberation? Am I supporting and challenging in this message? Or is this just a lot of challenge with no support? Or is this a lot of support with no challenge? Not that every single instance of communication has to have both, but the average, the mix, the way people perceive you as a whole should be a lot of both support and challenge. Before you say that thing in the meeting, just a little filter in your brain. Is this liberation? Or is this abdication, domination, protection? Like you have this new filter. And if everyone on your team has that filter kind of running in the background as a process before everything they say, just think about your team communication. You're going to get better things coming out of people's mouths and better things coming out of their, keyboards. The overall communication is going to improve if you're all thinking, is this little bit of communication liberation? Or is this communication one of the other quadrants? And I need to make sure I'm calibrating both there. Mike, we have something exciting we want to tell people about. And that is the Invincible Team Challenge. It's something that you're going to see on the Ascend product here in the next few days. And so eventually you're going to be able to click a little button that says Invincible Team Challenge. But a part of that Invincible Team Challenge is something called the Invincible Team Workshop. And we actually want to give any team watching this a free Invincible Team Workshop. And what that workshop is going to do is it's actually going to go deep on the 5 voices and go deep on the 5 voice dynamics and really help illustrate where their team is at and where there might be friction and where there might be growth opportunities. Mike, talk to us for just a second on how big of a deal it is that we're going to give away that kind of workshop for free.
Yeah, I mean, the honest truth is, since 2015, when we started launching our products and offerings, we would offer a workshop like that. A 90-minute workshop would be about $1,500. Is just the reality. So clients we work with, they know that that's right around the right price for 90 minutes, to like a half day workshop with us. And so it's a really powerful experience to go through with your team to understand what are the blind spots, where's the friction points, gives them a safe place to kind of process. Oh, I didn't realize that person was a nemesis voice of mine. Oh, now I understand why, Sally and I don't get along. I realize it's just because of our voice. Like I thought maybe she didn't like me, but it really was just, the dynamics of our voices. And so there's a lot of powerful insights, a lot of reading your team's mail, a lot of ahas and breakthrough that you said, how could you possibly have known that? So that all happens in that exercise. And you actually get to reality on how invincible is your team. So there's a lot of things happening. You're getting key insights and analysis really of where you're at. You're getting consulting and coaching from one of our experts. And you're leaving with a scorecard of how are we actually doing right now as a team and where might we need to take the next step.
Yeah, no, it's a huge value for free. And so here's what I want you to do. If you're watching this live and you're like, you know what, I would love to have a giant certified expert come in and give me this free workshop, this Invincible Team Workshop, email us, hello@giant.tv. If you send us that email, put in the subject line, I want my free workshop, or I want my free Invincible Team Workshop, just something like that. We'll know what you're after. So go ahead and email us, and we will tell you what the next steps are to get that free workshop. And just so to be clear, it can be on Zoom, right? So we'll have an expert somewhere. Your team is somewhere else. Maybe your team is remote. Doesn't matter. We'll block out an hour and a half or so. We'll get with your team, and we will do something with them specifically that when the workshop is over, they will say, this was revolutionary. this is something different. We've never seen anything like this. We're going to be different as a team because of this. This is going to help our bottom line. This is going to help our relationships. You can't go through this experience without profound change if you're paying attention. It's that kind of workshop. We're bringing the goods. So email us, hello@giant.tv if you want that. If you're watching a recording of this, then look at the top of your screen. There's probably a button on the Ascend product, which is where you're watching this, that says Invincible Team Challenge, right? This workshop is a part of our Invincible Team Challenge. So click on that button, and it's going to take you to a page that describes the next steps, and it'll tell you exactly what to do. Mike, this has been awesome. It's so fun getting our resident expert on support and challenge to come on and actually break it down for us. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this live stream?
Yeah, no, I just appreciate you guys' participation. I noticed Laura said something that I want to highlight because of what you said about the Invincible Team Challenge. She says, it depends on the person and the situation. Sometimes I am a dominator, or can dominate, I should say, Laura, and sometimes a protector. I probably lean protector because I am a connector and I don't want to damage the relationship. So here's what's really powerful. Because of a common language and because of simple visual tools, you actually can start to overlay these things. So I can tell you, and Laura has this insight already, connectors naturally tend towards high support. All of them, naturally. And I'm not saying they do it all the time, but their natural tendency is high support. So Laura now has this profound layering of simple visual tools and common language where her team know as a connector, she really doesn't want to hurt any relationship. And so she's going to tend more towards support, and they might experience that protect tendency. So Laura's growth curve, that's one of the questions on the exercise is, hey, Laura, we want you to actually be able to bring us challenge because we want you to be a liberator for us. We promise not to misunderstand you when you bring challenge because we know you're fighting for our highest possible good. So all of a sudden you've overlaid the voices with support and challenge, and there's a whole nother layer of insights that can happen. So I highly recommend, Bronson, you do the dynamics and you do the Invincible Team workshop, but then you take the next step to say, how can we take what we've just learned and start applying all these tools in the different areas to actually become invincible?
Yeah, so what you said may go right into this next question from Lindsay Simpson. So you just talked about, Mike, how we want to layer the voices on top of support challenge. So the question is, do you see people bringing a gendered lens to this, different ideas of what challenge means for men and women? And I want to add something to that question. Yeah. Is it about being a man or a woman, or is it really about what your voice is? Do different voices receive support and challenge differently? Is it about gender, or is it irregardless of gender, and it's actually about the voice of that gender?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question by Lindsay. And the answer is both, as a matter of fact, and Bronson's right. So the first thing is you're actually going to find natural tendencies and strong voices and personalities completely based on the voice. So again, we said the connectors are going to bring, the high support naturally. Pioneers are going to bring really high challenge naturally. So you start with the voice lens of going, all right, based on how they're naturally wired, they tend towards high challenge, or we talked about last time, logic and systems, or relational harmony and high support. That's just literally based on hard wiring. And then people are going to layer on unconscious bias. So what does it look like for a pioneering female to bring high challenge? Well, as a pioneer, she wants to bring high challenge because she actually is naturally good at it. So we have to layer in pioneer, that's natural, and there's a female unconscious bias. So we need to be aware of how does that get received based on the way it's delivered. So it's a great question, Lindsay. So we have to deal with both. And just so you know, based on human nature, there actually are gender preferences on the voices. So you'll find that there's actually a disproportionate number of nurturers who are females. There's a disproportionate number of pioneers who are males. So again, there's some dynamics there and they get layered, but it's a great question, Lindsay. And we have to remember, we have unconscious bias based on gender, but also on voice. So we want to learn the voices. We want to learn, our unconscious bias around genders so that we can, again, create a safe environment where everyone feels liberated, because we want folks to come to work feeling like people are fighting for their highest possible good and they're empowered and there's opportunity for everyone to thrive.
Yeah, that's great. And I just want to give people a vision for where Invincible is going. The product Invincible, we're going to start with 5 of these experiences here in the next few days. So you're going to be able to log in. This is the one we walked through today is going to be one of those that are going to go live. Over the coming months, we're going to have one of these experiences for every tool in our toolkit. Right now, Mike, how many tools do we have? It's like 70?
Yeah, close to 70, between 68 and 70, something like that.
So imagine this was one experience we just walked you through. Imagine you had 69 more of them that you could pull out any given time to work on one of those 5 sections of the flywheel: communication, relationships, those things. This is a clear path forward for helping your team become invincible. Mike, as always, thank you for being feisty today, coming up with the energy, coming with the goods, and teaching us the Support Challenge Matrix.
Yeah, no problem. Again, thank you for the audience, you guys showing up. I know a lot of folks watch the recording, so thank you for that as well. But I just want to send you off with just a feisty, kind of send off. It's like, guys, let's go for it, right? They're only the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world will actually do it. So I just want to encourage you, if you're in our ecosystem, you're one of those crazy people, and we want to support you and challenge you to go for the moon, honestly, and achieve all the things that get your heart's desires. So again, just sending you off with a little bit of feisty energy to go, hey, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's use the rest of the year to finish 2020 strong, and let's get ready for an exciting 2021. We don't know what it brings, but let's get ready to be change agents in the midst of all the chaos. So,
all right, Mike, talk soon.
Bye, bud. See ya.